10 years ago, I was 50 pounds overweight, I hurt all the time, and I was making 5 mistakes that were preventing me from making any progress. So if you're trying to lose weight or you're dealing with chronic inflammation, this video is for you, and here's the roadmap. We have the fat ratio trap, the healthy food backfire, the insulin blind spot, recovery debt, and the one that surprised me most, which is the movement ceiling. I was literally exercising too much. For mistake number 1, the fat ratio trap, we're talking about 2 very key fatty acids in your body. We have omega-6 fatty acids and omega-3 fatty acids. The main problem that I was running into when I was overweight was I was eating single ingredient whole foods, but my primary fat source was chicken. And I was buying the cheapest possible chicken that I could get in the store, so it ran even higher in omega-6 fatty acids. On top of that, I was eating tons of healthy nuts, and the combination was skyrocketing my omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. Now for context, most of our ancestors were likely eating diets that involved omega-6 to omega-3 of roughly 1-to-1, maybe 2-to-1. In the modern era, it can run as high as 20-to-1 or even 40-to-1. And this imbalanced ratio does 2 key things. First, it drives chronic inflammation because all of the membranes for the cells in your body are made up from fats that you consume in your diet. This is also why eating junk fats, like fats in fried food, make you more susceptible to sunburn because those cell membranes become more unstable. The second thing it does is it disrupts your HPA axis through the endocannabinoid system, which drives your stress response. That all sounds complicated. What it means is you're more prone to anxiety, stress, and inflammation. And if you want a more in-depth breakdown of that topic, I have a whole video on it right here. Now, thankfully, the fix to this imbalance ratio is very straightforward. It's consuming more omega-3s. And this might look like more pasture-raised eggs, more grass-fed meat, more fatty fish, and less ultra-processed and fried food. The biggest source for most people when it comes to omega-6 fatty acids in the diet are seed and vegetable oils that people are cooking with. So if you're gonna fix one thing, start there. And if the sources of omega-3 feel like too much because they're expensive, which no doubt they are, your best bet is to lean on anchovies and sardines. You can get them for $1 to $2 a can in the US. And if even that seems like too much, you could always pick up a high quality omega-3 fish oil supplement. I'll include a link in the description below for the same brand that I recommend to the majority of my clients. Now, mistake number 2, I call the healthy food backfire. And this one took me a long time to learn because I didn't understand that the state of the gut microbiome actually impacts how you digest different foods. In other words, certain healthy foods can stop being so healthy if you have a disrupted gut microbiome or leaky gut. Now, if you're familiar with Dr. Gundry and the plant paradox, you know he talks all the time about plant defense chemicals like lectins. Tom Brady's a prime example of this in his prime. I don't know if he's doing it now, but he was cutting out all nightshades, so tomatoes and zucchinis and eggplants, things that we would normally consider to be relatively healthy foods. And that was the same mistake I was making at the time, assuming that I could eat nightshades like zucchini or tomatoes, no problem. The other thing I was doing was I was adding these vegetables like kale and spinach completely raw into a daily smoothie. At the time, I had leaky gut and some degree of bacterial overgrowth. And so what was happening was every time I had my smoothie, I would end up super bloated. And later in the day, my joint pain would get worse. I see this all the time with clients, and the fix is very simple. If you've got leaky gut, I would start with some form of an elimination diet. You might want to go down to like carnivore-ish for a few weeks. And by eliminating a lot of these defense chemicals, you will allow your gut lining to heal so that it can tolerate them in the future. Once your gut lining is healed and you've started to get your microbiome back into a better balance, then you can add back in certain fruits and vegetables and fermented foods. Ultimately, healing your gut gives you so much more flexibility in your diet. And if you want a step-by-step breakdown that'll help you understand where you're at with your gut and where to go, I also have a video on that here. Just a reminder, everybody is entirely unique, so your approach to nutrition and the steps you need to take, those are going to be unique too. And if you appreciate nuanced content like this and want more breakdowns like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, mistake number 3, I call the insulin blind spot. This is another one I see clients making constantly. And the first thing I want to make clear is that it's nearly impossible to lose weight in a healthy, sustainable way without first fixing your insulin sensitivity. Insulin is your main energy storage hormone. When you eat carbohydrates or protein, your body releases insulin to get the glucose or sugar in your bloodstream out of the bloodstream and into your cells. When you become insulin resistant, your cells are saying, we have way too much glucose, and they stop accepting insulin as the delivery mechanism. So then your insulin levels stay high because your body's producing more of it, and that leads to a ton of downstream issues. Now here's the key point. Insulin is released in response primarily to dietary carbohydrates, but then also dietary protein. So prioritizing more protein is a great move if and only if you're being super mindful of your carbohydrates. If you're not smart about the carbohydrate intake, what you're doing by adding more protein is just adding demand for insulin. This was the exact mistake that I was making, thinking that adding more protein was a healthy move without adjusting my carbohydrates and making it nearly impossible for me to budge the scale. My client Greg is a perfect example of this. When he and I started working together, one of his main frustrations was saying, I never eat ultra-processed food. But then as we dug in and did his lifestyle audit, it became clear he was regularly eating grains like rice and potatoes. On top of that, he was having a couple alcoholic drinks per week, which is not normally an issue if you're engaging in moderation, but then he started adding more protein on top of that. As soon as we got tactical about this and substituted some of the carbohydrates for healthy fats and fiber-dense carbohydrates, his HbA1c dropped to normal and his insulin sensitivity skyrocketed to a healthy level. So by all means, add more protein to your diet. It is critical for muscle building and muscle repair. It helps you stay full. It actually requires more energy to digest compared to the other macronutrients. But at the same time, make sure you're not just adding protein on top of too many carbohydrates. Mistake number 4 is what I call the recovery debt. And this one's simple to understand. I just wasn't recovering enough. I was sleeping 6.5 hours every single night. And I was telling myself at the time, that's plenty of sleep. That's what most people in my life were getting. I was working 50 to 60 hour work weeks. That seemed totally manageable. Obviously, we've all heard a million times that you need 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, but I didn't truly understand that until I started looking at my biomarkers with 6.5 hours. The difference between 6.5 hours and getting more than 7 was extreme. My inflammation was worse, my insulin sensitivity was worse, my testosterone was down, my dopamine, my serotonin were both lower. And this resonates with me so much because I'm in the second wave of this right now with 2 kids under 2. The things I would give for 7 hours of sleep these days. Now, the good news is the fix for this is simple. Don't have kids. Just kidding. But otherwise, the first place I would start is a consistent wind down and wake up schedule. Ideally, you're going to bed at roughly the same time every day and waking up at roughly the same time without needing an alarm. I would aim for that window of 8 hours, which gives you an hour buffer, assuming you'll sleep for 7 of them. Get your morning sunlight and your morning hydration, and make sure you're shutting down screens at least an hour or 2 before bed. Like I said, if you've got young kids, there's really no way around this. But if you're currently trading your sleep for your job or a nightly TV schedule, just recognize this is a trade-off that is going to cost you in quality of life. And as a quick reminder, next week I'm dropping a whiteboard video breaking down what I call the 3 energy buckets. We're going to be talking about metabolic flexibility, insulin storage, and how to optimize your metabolism to lose weight. So if you don't want to miss that, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Now, mistake number 5 is the one that surprised me most, and I call it the movement ceiling. The bottom line is, I was exercising more than I needed to. I was running 2 days a week and I was lifting 3 days a week. And on its own, there's really nothing wrong with that split. But I was putting in more hours than I actually needed. And I was doing so on top of not sleeping enough to recover and eating foods that I thought were healthy that were actually leaving me inflamed. The vast majority of my clients that are focused on weight loss and building muscle are doing so in 90 minutes or less per week. But here's an important nuance and one of the things that I had to learn the hard way on my journey. Cardio and strength training are only 2 of the 4 types of movement. I cover these extensively in my book, and the other 2 are stability and flexibility. And skipping these 2 groups was one of the main contributing factors to the 4 lower body surgeries that I had to go through. Here's a prime example. My client Mike, mid-30s, enterprise account executive, all things considered, very healthy guy. He was exercising regularly, doing some strength training, riding the Peloton, but he wasn't losing weight, his energy was suffering, he had back pain, and he wasn't building the muscle that he was looking for. So we structured his week around 3 30-minute sessions that combined cardio and strength training. And then we added 5 to 10 minutes of mobility each morning. And in under 90 days, he had lost 15 pounds of fat, put on another 5 pounds of muscle, and his back pain went away entirely. And other intangibles, his sleep improved, his energy improved, and in his own words, he felt more motivated and more confident every single day. Those 5 mistakes are some of the easiest to overlook when you're trying to lose weight and optimize your health in a sustainable way for the long term. Now, I try not to get too in the weeds with any of these, but if you have questions on them, please feel free to drop a comment. I will definitely address each of them. If you want me to go deeper on any of them, let me know and I can do individual videos. And if you do each of these and you're still frustrated trying to lose weight, then definitely check this video out on how to reverse insulin resistance naturally without medications. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next one.